It's midnight in Longyearbyen, and for a few brief moments, the Arctic sun sets for the first time in 4 months. We've come to the Svalbard archipelago to talk to one of the world's leading experts on the process called carbon capture and storage. Carbon capture and storage removes carbon dioxide from industrial emissions before it can enter the atmosphere, where it contributes to climate change. The CO2 is then stored deep underground. It's the only technology we have to reduce industrial greenhouse gases, but the storage part is controversial. The protocols for storage are still being developed, and so far there are very few commercial capture and storage projects. Dr. Malcolm Wilson is the leader of the Weyburn CCS project in Saskatchewan, Canada. He's here in Longyearbyen, Svalbard, to teach a new generation of scientists and engineers about carbon capture and storage. Longyearbyen is an appropriate setting for the CCS summer school. Relics of its coal mining past are everywhere. The town's one power plant still burns coal to provide electricity. But the town has started to investigate carbon capture and storage to reduce its own emissions. Euronews took Dr. Wilson out to the project and asked him how we can make carbon capture and storage work in a world threatened by rapid climate change. The technology for capturing carbon dioxide from industrial emissions is pretty well established. The sticking point seems to be storage. What's being done to improve that?
You're right. The capture technology, for the most part, has been around. Some of it's been around for decades, and so is relatively well proven. We still need to bring down the costs, but work is ongoing. The storage is something we're more concerned about. And there are a number of projects out there, like Weyburn, like Sleipner in the North Sea, where we've had a decade or more of CO2 injection. Everything we're learning from those projects tells us that these are safe methods. One's an enhanced oil recovery, one's a saline aquifer deep under the North Sea. These are safe locations and a safe process for storing the carbon dioxide.
Many communities are reluctant to have large quantities of CO2 stored underneath them. Is there in fact a risk? Is it really safe?
I believe it's safe, and I say that as a geologist. When we look at what nature's been able to store in the subsurface for millions of years, Weyburn, for example, the oil and the gas has been stored for 55 million years. So we know the systems have a lot of integrity, and so it's safe to put things down there. We need to do the job properly. We need to be careful about it. We need to be conscious of health and safety issues, but fundamentally it is a safe process.
Carbon capture and storage doesn't have a financial incentive. So how do you persuade the big power companies to adopt it?
This is the fundamental issue. We need some messages. We need the appropriate regulation coming in from government globally to be able to do this. And that may be price messages, or it may be caps on emissions. The Norwegians have used financial mechanisms to encourage CO2 capture and storage, and so that's what we're seeing at Sleipner and at Snøhvit. But in most countries that's not happening, or the numbers that are being used are too low to be able to accommodate the cost of CO2 capture and storage.
If we're to limit the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere to 450 parts per million, then the adoption of carbon capture and storage technology is urgent, isn't it?
Based on the science, the climate science that's out there, we really need to make sure we're keeping temperature increases to less than 2 degrees Celsius on a global basis. In order to accomplish that, we really need to take immediate action to reduce CO2 emissions. And that means using every weapon at our disposal, if you like. That includes carbon capture and storage and anything else we can do. Energy efficiency, renewable energy, wind power, the like. We need to be starting now. We don't want to leave it for another decade or 2 decades at the rate CO2 concentrations are increasing.
We will continue to burn fossil fuels for the foreseeable future. Can we reduce greenhouse gas emissions without carbon capture and storage?
I don't believe we can. I think that's an integral part of the whole activity of reducing CO2 emissions. There's no way we're going to move away from fossil fuels over the next probably 5 decades at least. So we need to be able to use those fuels more sustainably, if you like, and that means reducing the CO2 emissions from their use.
Is rapid climate change, in fact, going to be a reality?
I think we're heading down a pathway right now where we're going to fly past the 450 parts per million, and we're going to go into a period of climate change. What that looks like, how rapidly it's going to occur, I don't know. But I believe we're already in that. We're already seeing indicators of change, and most of the indicators of change certainly show an increase in temperature. So I think we're already beginning that process. It's just a question of how far it's going to go, depending on how much CO2 and other greenhouse gases we release into the atmosphere.